beer to?
Sorry, well, my space heater has wine all over it, so I decided to turn it off.
So good evening, fellow entrepreneurs and friends.
Yes. Thank you for joining Lindsay and I, and our special guest, which we will introduce right now. His name is Adam Hommey, and he is the how would you describe Adam, Lindsay? The launch king,
the launch master, the copywriter whiz.
True.
The marketing genius. I don't know. He's awesome. I think
he's awesome.
Is he camping for this event, or like, what's the deal there?
Is he what?
Are you outside?
Yes, I am.
That's why it's all dark, silly.
Yeah, I tested this earlier, and normally on the cam, it gives me plenty of light. I'm wondering if this FBLive has something to do with it. No, I tested it at night.
Why are you outside? Just because it's is that why?
Because it's nice and warm out.
Not for me.
I'm a little jealous. It's definitely not warm here. As I mentioned, my space heater has wine all over it, and I'm cold.
Yeah, I just sorry to hear that. Fireplace on. I just turned it off. So, of course, we are talking about launches today. So, Adam, for anyone that can see you a little bit better now. So, for anyone out there that doesn't understand what the heck a launch is, what is the launch? Not to be confused with lunches.
It's kind of funny because a friend of mine, I'm not going to say his name, but you both know him, and in fact, one of you was on his podcast. He accidentally sent out an email once that said "product lunch," and he ended up buying the domain productlunchformula.com.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, none other than Jeff Walker, the creator of the Product Launch Formula, got wind of it, and he said, "Ha ha, real funny, take it down."
Oh, really? That's funny.
So, yes. So, launches are for what, Adam? For folks out there that don't understand?
Well, basically, it's the idea that when you create a product, you create a service, you create a program, you want to get a bunch of people to buy it or join it or come to it if it's an event. Now, what we know is that the worst way to introduce any offering to your audience is to just out of the blue say, "I've been in my secret lab for 7 months, and I've now created this thing. It's only $19.97. That's with the decimal point at the end, so $2,000. And here's what's inside it. Buy now, you have 24 hours. It doesn't work.
No.
So when we think of launches, we think of the process through which we get our audience and we work them through what I call the 3 Ps of website conversions. Pre-qualified, so we know that we're speaking to the right audience with the right message. Prepped, which means that they're ready to go. And pumped, so that when you do open the doors after making them do all that waiting, they will be clamoring to get on your fast-loading web page and take the action you told them to take before they miss out on the chance to be one of the first 50 people.
I love that. Did you come up with those 3 Ps, Adam, or is that someone else?
Well, let's back up a little bit. I've said for many, many years that the absolute worst thing that you need or want in your business is traffic to your website. Now, I said that once in an event.
I remember that.
And somebody, I'm not going to mention any names, One-Click actually tried to strangle me in public. And I have a photo of this, proof. You denied it happened when I showed you the picture. So here's the situation. When you say traffic to your website, traffic is that reason I work from a home office. I don't want traffic. And website, what is that? Is that a blog, an about page, a sales page, a webinar page, an about page, a contact page, privacy policy page, products page? Any one of those things can be a website, and a website can contain all of those things. So what I do is I simply take the whole thing and shift it over a little bit, and I urge you to get targeted visitors to your web pages who are pre-qualified, prepped, and pumped. Now, here's something I want your listeners to get. You may be thinking, but that is traffic to your website. Well, yeah, it is. here's what happens. There are so many people out there. In fact, I know both of you at one time or another have mentioned to your audiences about traffic to your website, as have 500,000 other people. So if I were to go into the market and say traffic to your website, like, oh, he's another one of those. But when I say the last thing you want is traffic to your website, what you want are visitors to your web pages who are pre-qualified, prepped, and pumped, suddenly that's a differentiator. I'm gonna go back to a lesson I learned from Alan Weiss, who's a very, very high-end business and marketing teacher. And he said that if you want to be number one in your market, just move over slightly and redefine it. Now you're number one. So I'm the number one guy for visitors to your webpage.
I like that. I like it. And I also really, really, really like pre-qualified, prepped, and pumped. I like it.
I know. You want the hype, right? You want to pique interest at the beginning and curiosity, and you want people to be dying to jump onto that page once it finally releases.
Yes.
So how do you find
so many questions.
You're all drinking wine. I'm drinking iced tea.
You go first, One Click.
Oh, I think yours will be more on topics, so go for it. I was going to actually kind of change topics, but so go ahead.
I was just going to ask, how do you make them pre-qualified? How do you know if they're, qualify them to buy?
Well, there's a number of things that you can do, and I'm going to cover more of this when we go through the case study, but some of it just has to do with market testing and see how people respond to it. You post things on social media, maybe you boost posts or whatever it is that you traffic people do. You try different offers to your list. You try different, you could maybe do webinars, maybe you could do free downloads, special gifts. Part of what you can do is you can test your subject lines to see what gets better open rates. And then you can look at your emails to see what types of information you get better click-throughs. Also doing surveys and just being present in the world of online marketing. So, for example, when you join groups or you participate in pages, just get a tenor for what people seem to really be up in arms about, really excited about, really spending a lot of time asking questions and sharing information about. And that'll give you a perspective of how to enter the conversation in terms of the language. So in terms of pre-qualifying people, as I said, more this has been answered. This will be better answered as we go through what I have to share. But the short answer is you have to give them opportunities to say yes to you and figure out who's going to say yes.
Well, and nurture and warm them up, right? I've seen people that have not sent emails out to the list. They're not consistent with social media, and they think, oh, I'm going to launch a product or info product or event or whatever. And then all of a sudden they bombard their poor list, and they're all like, where the hell did you come from? And all of a sudden you want me to spend money on you? It's like, you have to warm them up. You got, just like when you're like a comedian, you got to warm up the crowd and get the juices flowing.
This reminds me of just something really quick. Back in 2010, when I ended my web development firm and moved into my website conversion consulting firm, which was called Help My Website Sell, I sent out a newsletter under the Help My Website Sell brand. It was now talking about all the new stuff. And I sent it out, and I'm thinking, oh boy, people are going to be excited. They're going to write back. They're going to congratulate me. This is going to be a victory lap. And about an hour later, I'm asking myself, what? Did I wake up this morning and put on subscriber repellent? As I watched the unsubscribes come through. And this is where I realized firsthand that you can't just spring something on somebody. Now, fact is, I'm gonna say it. A lot of the people that unsubscribed, farewell, I could tell just by looking at you weren't my prospects anyway. So sometimes there is an attract and repel that goes into it. And in order to attract people, you sometimes have to repel people and vice versa. But at the same time, I could have done that more elegantly. And that's actually one of the catalytic events that led me to have an interest in what we're going to talk about tonight.
Awesome. We should check in.
I think we should dive in.
Yeah. Well, hold on. I just want to see with the audience. I'm kind of curious to see if anyone out there has done a product launch or maybe is wanting to do one soon. You can see who the someone bailed. They're going to ask me a question. So if anyone is out there listening, pipe in. If you're ready to do a launch or you've done a launch, we'd love to hear any of your questions or your experience.
Or just write, yes, you have done a launch or will be doing for a launch. You don't need, I'll even feed you the answers so you don't have to think for yourselves.
Look at that. Look at that. You're truly the caring and sharing group.
Okay.
Yeah, I knew when you guys came up with this idea at the last Dream Business Academy that this will be a lot of fun. So it could be the folks are just so engrossed that they're taking notes on every word we say and they're just not even looking up to type yes.
I think they want to hear Adam's test case because I know I do. I've been very excited to hear this.
Okay,
so, go Adam, go.
All right. Oh, we got somebody. Somebody is planning.
Melissa is planning a course launch in the middle of January. Sweet.
Oh, Melissa is one of my one-clickers in my Click Technique group. So let's see. Did she say more? Oh, no. On 115. Are you ready, Melissa? Do you have a plan, or is that why you're listening in? Because you're going to love this. Adam really is the best at launches. He is the best at what he does. He's like Wolverine.
Wolverine. Nice.
All right, Adam.
You know what? I do have kind of that Wolverine look to it. For those who are tuning in, I've tested what it looks like out here on my balcony at night, and I had the lighting right. But I'm wondering if it's something about this FBLive thing because I've never had this this blue streak going right down the middle. Maybe it's the portal.
I like it. I like it.
You're looking ever so mystical and godly.
Okay. Well, let's see. Somebody's listening here, so we best get into it. All right.
She needs a plan, so she wants to hear it.
Okay, so let's roll back here, and we're going to go back to about the middle of 2017. My company has had a client for over 10 years who may very well be watching this right now because he said he might stop by. And he is recognized around the world as the founder of a system that helps smart men achieve success with women, whether it's dating, meeting women, finding the woman of your life, whatever your goal is with women. Yeah, that would be Ross Jeffries. Yeah, so if he's there, say hi to him.
Hey, Ross. Are we allowed to say his name? Did you want to keep it edgy?
Yeah, the cat's out of the bag, so to speak, which is a funny thing about him. He's a cat person just like I am. Those of you who've been on some of my previous webinars know that when I'm inside, my cats sometimes join me. And when he does his coaching sessions, his cat, who's a tortoiseshell cat named Pernilla Jones, will usually co-lead the sessions with him. You'll see her face coming out of the side because she's sitting at the side watching him, and occasionally she'll look like.
That's awesome.
Yeah, she's awesome. So what he wanted to do is he wanted to relaunch and revamp his continuity program and bring together a tribe of smart men who basically have most things in life handled, but there's just this one little thing that's missing, which is success with women. Whether you want to play the field or you want to have a system that helps you more quickly and effectively find a woman you truly want to be with, like a girlfriend or a wife, regardless of your approach to it, it works. And what we wanted to do was create a new tribe and reactivate some of his previous subscribers. He has tens of thousands of subscribers, so really big list.
Because he's been doing this for 10 years. And has he kept his list warm? Just curious about the status of his list. Is this all a surprise, or?
Actually, he's been doing this for almost 30 years. He published his first book on this subject in 1988. He's been my client for 10 years, and he's very good at list nurturing. Like he sends out a weekly e-newsletter. He's usually in people's inboxes at least 5 times a week. I'm fairly active on social media, and he does release courses on a regular basis, at least one or two new courses every year, and he holds at least 2 in-person seminars every year. So it's not like he was hiding in a cave or anything like that. But here's the challenge with continuity in any market that has to do with self-help, personal wellness, or those types of categories, which dating and seduction can fall into because it's a form of self-improvement, is once people feel they've been self-improved, they're done. Or if they give up on the idea of self-improving, they're done.
If they find a girlfriend, like if it works, right? Then they're done.
That's what I was getting ready to say. You could be so successful with it, you find the love of your life in 2 weeks, and you know this is the one, and everything's working out and everything's great. Or it could be like, people go to the gym and then they forget after 2 weeks and 3 days of sore muscles. It's not enough to just belong to it. You have to actually go there.
Yeah.
They declare themselves fit because they lost 1.5 pounds, and then they just kind of give up on the whole thing. So those are the challenges that come to continuity. And you pointed out yourself, one of the specific challenges to this market is if the guy becomes successful too quickly, for lack of a better phrase, that could be it. So
yeah, I'm really hoping that none of his clients have stuck with him for 30 years. Because
here's a funny thing, and here's part of the reason why we did the exercise. With a very large list, tens of thousands of subscribers, it's a huge list. Sometimes guys will go through phases where they settle down for a while, they get in a relationship that goes 4, 5, 6 years, and then they break up, and then they don't know what to do. Meanwhile, they already have it in front of them. They just need to get back into it. So being having front of mind awareness with your audience, especially like this, is important, because just because a guy was in your program or invested in your products or your seminars 5 years ago, but then just dropped off the program because he found true love for 5 years, doesn't mean that it's going to be for life. I mean, 50% of marriages fail, and all marriages that don't end in relationships usually fail unless they just don't ever marry, but till death do us part.
So what was his launch?
Okay, so here basically are the mechanics of what we did. It was decided to do a series of webinars. So 12 webinars over a 3-month period. Now you're thinking, wow, that's pretty intense. That's a lot of webinars. Double it.
That's a webinar a week, right? Webinar a week.
Double it by the fact that each session was done at noon and at 7:00 p.m. The reason being is his company is truly a global company, not just a local company that has one customer in Australia, so therefore they call themselves global. I mean, he has specific groups of followers in places like London and Tel Aviv, and there's a group in Singapore, and there are concentrations in New York and Los Angeles and Southern Florida. It's a very interesting market. And what we would do is we would have people join a list to say, yeah, I'm interested in attending these webinars. And also every week when we announced a new webinar, we would have people register for that individual webinar. And what we did through that process is we tested different topics. What are some things that guys would be interested in? Would they be interested in recovering from breakups? Would they be interested in working on the inner game, confidence? We tested topics like, meeting younger women, meeting older women. We tested the use of language and suggestion, which turned out to be the most popular of all the threads. And we measured open rates and attendance rates on these different webinars. So the way the webinars worked is he would teach for about 20 minutes on a subject, and then he would open it to Q&A. And wouldn't you know, a couple of these Q&As ran 2 hours.
Holy!
These guys were getting really excited. Now, the initial trigger goal of this was to get new people into the community.
Right.
That was one of the primary goals. We want to reach out. We want to get a lot of new people onto the list. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's good. And let's also go to what we have and let's see who's going to be active with us, who's going to be interested, and who we can reactivate. So the first couple webinars, we knew who all the people were. We recognized them all as product buyers, and we're thinking, wait a minute, this is just the same old guys. And then I thought, no, let's stick with this, because once people see us doing it and we go out into the world with it, more people will jump on. And that's kind of exactly what happened. By about the 4th and 5th week especially, we started seeing a lot of names and a lot of faces that we had not recognized up until then. So it was working.
Was it because you were pulling traffic from somewhere else, or where were the new people coming from?
Basically just organic social media.
Oh, really? Oh, people who are like sharing, you should totally get on this webinar. Okay. Wow.
Pretty much. Also, he has a very active Facebook group. It has now it has over 1,000 members. Back then when we first started, I think it had like 750, 800 people. But I mean, an extremely active group where there are usually 4 or 5 new threads every single day. So we already knew that there were a community of guys who were already taking this seriously and seeking help from a group. So we go through the 12 webinars. And then we figure out that it's probably going to take us about 5 to 6 weeks to go ahead. Oh, you're right here.
I am raising my hand. Was he doing the webinars live every single time at 12 and at 7? There was no recording. He was bringing
slides, content.
Yeah. Wow. Well, let's see. Each week it was the same slides, but he'd give that part of the presentation twice.
I see. Okay. So it was the same webinar every week.
Well, it was 12 different webinars, so different topics for each of the 12 weeks.
Oh, okay.
But he repeated
but every
that
day
topic.
Was 2.
He repeated that topic twice each week, one for the noon and one for the 7 p.m. session.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, here's the other thing that I'm just reminded of as you said that is there were no replays.
Love it. Which is probably a secret, right? That's one of your secrets, I'm guessing.
That is actually one of the things, because what we wanted to do is we wanted to train the community to take action and not just, put my name down, I'll get to it. We didn't want that. We wanted the action takers. We wanted guys to want this so much they would rearrange their schedule to make sure that they were there. If it was midnight in their time zone, they would drink a strong cup of coffee and show up. That's what we wanted. And as we had hoped, we got a lot of guys begging, pleading, offering money for the recordings, which is good. I'll get to that.
Ooh.
So 12 weeks goes by. We now have this trove of 24 webinar recordings. And now we're getting to the point where we're ready to restart the continuity program or start a new continuity program. So we did a couple of mini surveys where we asked the people who had attended these webinars one question, just to kind of keep them interested and then also do some further engagement. And then we went through the data of what the attendance rates were, what topics were most popular, which ones generated the most Q&A. And then we even went through some of the Q&A, some of the questions that had been submitted. We were looking for trends. We were looking for things that seemed to come up every single week, no matter what the stated topic was. And that's how we got the idea behind what would attract people to join a new continuity program. And the balance was
now,
also...
for those that are listening that don't know what you mean by continuity program, can you explain that real quick?
Where people pay you money on a regular basis to belong to something, like a membership program.
All right, thanks.
Right. I have a question.
Yeah.
So before you started these webinars and what have you and the surveys and stuff, did you already know what your launch product or whatever it was? Or were you using this to tweak the product so that you could optimize it to make sure that it was the most receptive item?
We only knew at the time that we were going to launch a new membership program, but we were letting the process help guide us as to what it would be. I mean, there were ideas internally about what it would consist of, but it was ultimately decided to start a program that does a combination of the dating and seduction teaching and also deals with NLP teaching, which is neuro-linguistic programming. So he's going to create a course around that for the members. And then there's also going to be a series of guest experts on topics related to self-improvement and personal wellness and some other bonuses as well. Now, the format was a big change.
I have another question.
Yeah.
I know.
I'd love to complete a sentence, but go ahead.
I know. Well, I figured if I got the question, other people would have the question, right? And I know your stuff, but it's like, it just came to me. So if someone does have like an info product or like a specific course that they've already built based off of a book or whatever it may be, would you use this approach for them as well in a slightly different way? Or is this approach? Okay.
I'll get to that. This is something very unique that we created for a very specific reason. And when I get to the recap part of it, I'll explain part of what that is. In my little lantern here, I think the battery's dying. Dag nabbit. Okay, well, let's just keep going.
You sound great.
Oh, I thank you very much. I have a face for radio.
Radio voice.
I have a face for radio and fortunately a voice to match. Otherwise, I'd be sunk. All right. So we have about that 6-week interlude where we do actually in the middle of it, between the end of the webinar series, I'm going to finish one thought before I call it.
Woman.
Because I have to at least string together one thought so people can follow. All right. Between
it's our show, Adam.
And I want your show to inspire somebody. So between the end, you spilled your wine. So between the end of the 12-week webinar series and the opening of the doors of the new membership program, we ended up doing a product launch. We determined, as I said earlier, through all the topics of the webinars, throughout the course of the 12 weeks, we found out that the most popular topics were those webinars that were about what are known as language patterns, which is the way you use language to make women interested and make women part of the conversation and present yourself as being a good guy.
Had a good
in a way that
present yourself.
Present yourself. Yeah.
That's pickup lines, you know.
Doesn't matter if you're a good guy or not, as long as you're presenting yourself as one.
So it was decided to do a product launch right in the middle of this. And what we ended up doing, got my lights back on, and basically we compiled a whole bunch of these language patterns.
Did this guy sleep at all in that time period? Holy Hannah!
8 hours a day. And put those inside his membership vault as a separate level, and did a promotion of those things, and that went very, very well. And it also helped us with more information because it helped us identify. Okay, so we had 1,000 people who registered and attended at least one of the 12 webinars, and now we know we have about, I think the number was like 85 or something like that, people who bought this product. It was a lot of people, actually. And so now we know these are the people that are willing to spend a little bit of money. So we're seeing that the topic held, the interest held, and now when we launch this new membership program, the way that the live coaching sessions are going to work, and there are going to be 2 of those every month. So, and what's interesting is they'll be held at noon and at 7 o'clock. So they'll be repeated twice on each of the 2 days a month, because we learned that. We learned that's how we got better participation. Will follow the format of the webinars. In his previous coaching program, he just used like an audio bridge line. But we figured out that using Zoom in itself made a huge difference. So when we did the pre-launch for the new membership program, we kept making references to those webinars because we kept reminding people of the experience that they enjoyed with those webinars, promising that there would be more.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, when I say this was basically a 5-month pre-launch sequence, we had a few different goals. Identify which segment of a very large list was currently interested or would become interested, number one. Reach out and get new people onto the list to get some fresh blood into the system. Get them used to and hooked on a way of getting the teaching, and then move that over and show them how they can get more of it.
And it worked. So are you at the end of the 5 months, Adam?
We are at the end of the 5 months, and we just did the initial promotion. The initial doors open. It was a 9-day sequence to fill memberships in the program. Now, by NDA, I can't say what the actual results were, but I can give you a broad scope. We had planned. I mean, his initial goal was to hit a certain number of new memberships, and we came to 79% of that number by the time we closed the doors initially.
Nice.
Yeah, and that's one. There's a couple lessons I want to share. Remember when I said when we were doing the webinars that we said no replays, and we meant it. No replays. Very important. Training people that we're not going to just be flexible about this. When we say the doors close, the doors close.
Right.
That's the first piece. The second is when we opened the doors for initial enrollment into the program, we decided on a 9-day sequence. So we had to start on a Thursday and end the following Saturday. The reason why we picked those dates, and for the people I know that are listening to this right now, you have to be aware of differences in terms of your doors open periods, whether you have a B2B or B2C audience. That's business to business versus business to consumer, because those two markets can have different types of responses. Now, when you talk about a business that teaches self-improvement, that's usually considered business to consumer. So when that's the case, you better have some stuff going on when you're not at work.
Yeah.
Which is why having it open on a Thursday, so we would just be going into it as we went into that first weekend, and then having it end on a Saturday night was so powerful. And what was really cool about this, and think about the timing, I said that he has a significant following in places like Tel Aviv and London, and there's also a contingent, I think, in Russia or something like that, of guys. I mean, we have somebody from the Czech Republic. I think we have somebody from Austria. And there's a bunch of different countries that participate in this. We had it end at midnight Pacific, so that certain parts of the world where we know his followers are concentrated would have an extra bite at the apple first thing Sunday morning for them.
Hey, I love it. Your audience.
Yeah. So I'm revealing this just as an example, but just to give you an idea of the thinking you have to, that has to go into is you have to know where your followers are. And To figure that out, part of it is your analytics. If you're using Google Analytics or your pixels or whatever you call them, pay attention to your behavior. When do people tend to show up? When are your peak traffic periods, to use your word, traffic? Although I would say, when's the time when most of the visitors are coming by? Whatever, it's the same thing. Think about when you send out emails. Think of the times a day when you send them out that tend to generate better open rates, because you're going to get the majority of your opens within the first couple hours, and it kind of trickles. So you want to be able to have sense of that timing too, so you know when to send these things. And then the third piece of it, going back to when we said there were no replays on the webinar, there were no exceptions. If you didn't get in by Saturday night, then you missed open enrollment. So
did you allow people to pay for those recordings or not? Like, they are literally not available. I'm
getting there.
Oh.
I'm getting there.
Excuse me.
So what I was preparing to say is, the reason we hit about 80% of our initial target, now notice I keep saying the word initial, is we wanted people to decide how important it was to them. And we were having, and there were two different payment options. You could do a straight monthly, or you could pay for 6 months up front and get a bit of a discount. And the upfront investment was pretty big number. So we were getting several students who were saying, you know what, I really want to get in on this because I don't want you to close the doors on me. Because you said that you were going to close the doors after you got 50 people, or whoever came first, or Saturday night, whenever it came first. So I don't want to miss this, because I know it could go away at any time. Can I pay the $197 to join right now, and then get you the rest of it in 5 days when I get my paycheck?
Wow.
That's how we knew we were capturing people.
That is so cool.
That's how we knew we were getting people. And when you get that type of thought process in mind, we had to have a couple people on staff last Saturday night when we were closing, because we got a whole bunch of guys all trying to sign up at the last minute. Yeah. And when you have a volume of people, especially people who function at the last minute, Murphy's Law. So typically need to do more support. But if you want to have a thriving continuity business, I think one Saturday night is worth it.
Yeah. Well worth it. So I want to talk real quick. You mentioned Zoom. Why did you choose Zoom over like a webinar jam or something?
Well, I'm not going to get into saying that certain softwares are better or worse, or there's some seem to really suck all the time and some are really awesome or something like that. I'm not going to get into any of that, because everybody has their own opinion on what is the best. But with Zoom, it has the ability for you to very easily call on people when you use the meeting version of it. So you have your people floating at the top, and you can mute them and have them raise their hand. And it's just very easy for people to follow. And since most of these softwares require you to install some little piece on your software, a piece of software on your machine, Zoom just has the smallest piece of software. So we worked with Zoom, and it worked pretty well.
How many people would, like, at your most popular webinar, how many people showed up?
100.
And Zoom totally managed that, and that was not a problem, like, for him to call on people or anything like that?
Yeah, well, I mean, actually more people than that tried to show up, but the limit was 100. Because in our marketing, we also said there's only 50 spots available on these webinars.
That's so awesome.
To get people to sign up even faster, even though the real number was 100. But if we noticed some real popularity spikes, we would say, I open more spaces, or to create excitement, or to create excitement. When the thing was actually going live, we would say, oh, look at that, there's 48 people. Hey, you know what? I think we're going to get more people. Can you add some spots real quick? And I would sit there with him, and I'd pretend like I was logging in. It's like, click, 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 click. All right, we got 50 more spots. It's good.
Wow, that's awesome. Okay.
I figure I might as well disclose this, because everybody knows that, all but the most advanced levels of Zoom allow 100 people in. So, I mean, I didn't want to perpetuate that. But the fact is, you can always create, even if you're saying there's only 50 spots available, and even if you say there's only 50 spots available, even though there are really 100, even if you say there's only 50 spots available, that's still perfectly ethical, because you can just simply make the argument that it's going to be a very active group, and you want to be able to provide the full level of support to everybody involved. The same reason and the same logic and explanation we use behind why the first open enrollment was only 9 days, because we wanted to get the guys who were really serious about taking action to stand up and get involved. And then we said, all right, so we got to close the doors here for a little while, because we really got to focus on these many new guys and get them fully up to speed and going with the program. We'll reopen at a later date, but get on the waiting list now if you want to be the first to find out when we do that.
I love it.
Do we want to see, I know if Melissa is still watching, if she had any questions that would help launch.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions for Adam, this is the time to ask, because he has just gone through a very successful launch. Now, Adam, for your personal company, I've noticed you're hosting a lot of webinars, and you are you're being an amazing email marketer lately.
Thank you.
Are you allowed to disclose if you're doing the same thing for your personal brand?
Basically, I'm doing the same thing. What I don't have the benefit of is a list that's quite as big as Ross's list. I can tell you a very simple reason why, and again, we're talking full disclosure here, is I've been very blessed for the past 5 years to have a business where I don't really have to chase anybody. In fact, they come chasing me. My conversations with prospects are usually more about why I can't fit them or why they're not a fit versus, come on board. Because I've been very selective about cherry picking who the clients are. And since you guys both know me very well, you kind of have an idea who most of them are. And I don't.
So are you looking for more big clients, or what has changed?
Well, here are the changes. As I said, I've been very blessed to have that model, and I want to keep that model because I want to be very closely involved with a select group of people. Occasionally one leaves and occasionally one comes in. Maybe there's a change in my life, I can take on one more, that sort of thing. But now I want to move beyond that. They teach in entrepreneurial leverage school, build a team and outsource everything to them. And I have an answer to that, which is if you enjoy what you're doing, you want to be hands-on with some of it, why not have a division that you get to do yourself and then build something else that's leveraged or one-to-many or is more of an educational versus an implementational type of thing. So that's what we're looking to build now. And the next step of that, of course, is we are launching a book called Groundhog Day is a Business Strategy. Groundhog Day is an event, not a business strategy, which comes out on Groundhog Day 2018. Toward that end, we're just ramping things up now, and I'm going through kind of the same process of reawakening my list segments and getting new attention on this and getting people to just start noticing what I'm doing by hosting a series of webinars. We just did our 4th one, and we have 2 left. And what I'm doing basically is I have this collection of articles. Part of them are on a blog that I sporadically nurture. Part of them are on another blog that I sporadically nurture. Part of them are Facebook posts that I just never relayed to any blog. And part of them are just notes I've taken. And I'm weaving all these concepts together into a series of 6 webinars that I'll then have transcribed and then extensively edit.
I love it.
Because I am not a wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and spend 2 hours looking at a Word document before the world wakes up type of guy, for 2 reasons. Number one, I just don't get up that early. And number 2, on the West Coast, One-Click, you probably have an idea that by the time you come online, unless you're an unbelievably super early riser, the world's largely waiting for us out here on the West Coast.
I get up at 4:30.
Even
no one's waiting for me.
Okay.
But yes, I know what you mean. I get up. Yeah,
but other Lindsay with a Y, you being on the East Coast, you got us beat.
Yes. And I'm not an early riser.
Yeah, if you got up at 4:30, no one would be around, Lindsay.
I get up at 7 and I'm good with that.
Yeah.
So I want to read Melissa's question. So she says, I'm having a hard time imagining executing on that many webinars. I'm just starting out, a need to write my course. I only have an outline and promote it before January 15th. I'd love some ideas on what I could do as a quick start. My list is 50 people, and she needs a plan and the content.
Good job, Melissa. Yeah.
Okay. I would give you a very simple recommendation. What I've just shared with folks is a very unique model to create for a specific situation that we've proven to work, that we're now testing in different audiences. But I will still tell you that in designing this model, I referenced the best practices of Jeff Walker's product launch formula. I don't know if it's currently available for sale. I know Jeff only makes it available a few times a year, so I don't know if you can even buy it right now. But you can always buy his book called Launch that does give you all the steps of the launch sequence.
Fair enough, but do you think that, like, everything you're describing here and everything Jeff Walker teaches in Product Launch Formula, do you think that applies to people that have a list of 50 and are low budget? Because I do feel like a lot of people are in that situation. So you think doing the sideways sales letter and everything will work just for people with a list of 50?
Yeah, so basically for Melissa, I can give it to you very briefly. I don't know how engaged you are with your list of 50 people. Hopefully you're emailing them on a regular basis. You're at least sending out a weekly e-newsletters.
She's a member of the Click Technique, so she's definitely emailing at least once a week, right, Melissa?
I'm gonna take that as a yes.
Yeah,
so, but even if she did a couple of webinars, she could help and did some like quick Facebook ads. She could grow her list before the launch.
Yep, that's what I'm saying. You do a couple webinars, and I like webinars and things like that better than creating special reports because webinars imply action. A special report implies something I'm going to download on my hard drive and then forget where it is, and I'm never going to do anything with it. But a webinar says, I signed up for this. It's Tuesday, and dagnabbit, I'm going to be there. And then the fact that you're doing that webinar gives you total cachet to email your list every single dagnabbing day about getting on that webinar and to follow up with the people who registered for it to make sure they show up. So basically, they are inviting you to dramatically boost your frequency in their inbox.
And even like give some of the content ahead of time, send out videos before the webinar. Right. You want to engage with them as much as possible so that they show up for that thing.
So that's something that you want to be doing now. Another thing you want to be doing is, I'm not sure if Melissa has a podcast of her own right now, but
she does not.
I would recommend she start one. And here's the reason why. You do all that stuff where you have your first 3 episodes ready before you launch. You can get it onto iTunes and you can try and maneuver it into the best and brightest or newest and hottest or whatever they call it these days. But the real reason you're going to be, I always forget the technical term.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, but part of the reason you would do that is this actually gives you the opportunity to start networking with people. I have said for so long, if you're doing that thing where you meet people for coffee to talk about how you can help each other, you know what? If somebody wants to pick my brain, my answer to them is very simple. They say, well, Adam, I wonder if we could just get together for a little while and I could pick your brain. It's like, first of all, I don't want any metal instruments in my brain, so you can't pick my brain. But if you want me to give you some great stuff, then you need to host me on a podcast or a webinar. I can do that from here. I'll buy my own coffee. I don't even drink coffee, so I don't care to do that. But you want to give me a little bit of love, I'll give you the best I got. And,
I love it.
And so basically what she would be doing by hosting a podcast is kind of the same thing. She would be accessing the minds, the networks, and the interests of people who could be influencers to help her with her launch, to help her spread the word, possibly even be affiliates. Because when you're doing a podcast and you're hosting it, one of the most important conversations that happens on that podcast is in the green room before you record or before you go live.
Melissa, what is the topic of the program you'll be launching? Is it around it's around motherhood or organizing or basically managing motherhood, right? Is that right? Tell me what your product is, if you're still listening.
Yeah. I have more for her. I don't know if you want me to wait or just go. Okay.
I just wanted her to start saying
next thing it is if November, December, January. So basically we're looking at 2 months before she opens the doors. She needs to start getting herself interviewed on other podcasts now. And there are 2 reasons why. First of all, because since a lot of podcasts are pre-recorded, you may do the recording next week, but it may not even be featured to go until January. So you want to start getting recordings done, and then when you have the conversation with them, you can perfectly say, you know what, I have a launch on January 15th, and I was wondering if you could release my episode on the 15th or thereabouts, and most podcast hosts will be happy to accommodate that. With my Business Creators Radio Show, if somebody comes to me with that question, I'll do the best I can to accommodate that, because I would ask the same thing of somebody else. So start planning your buzz for your launch. And it's actually
not that hard to get featured on podcasts. A lot of podcast hosts, if you approach them with, like, if you're not being all salesy and templatey about it, a lot of them are more than happy to interview you if you have something to say. Is that fair to say, guys?
That's very fair to say. Totally. That's very fair to say. So if you want to, find some bookings really quick, just have your stuff in order. So when you approach them, you let them know that you're an easy to work with and fun guest. So you have together, you have your topic, you have your headshots. You, if you want them to allow you to, because you can't really have them offer a product on these things. They're not for sale, but you can offer like a download or something like that. So, or if you have like an evergreen webinar or something that they can opt into, so that you get them on your mailing list. So you have that ready. Yeah. So you have your title, your episode titles ready. You have your freebie ready, so you can do some list building. You have your description ready. You have your bio ready. You have your headshot ready, and you have some suggested interview questions ready. Different podcast hosts have different thoughts on this, but for the Business Creators Radio Show, I've actually thrown people off for not being willing to pre-submit questions. And the reason I do that is because, look, you're coming onto my podcast, but I'm helping you shine at the intersection of your brilliance and passion. I don't want to guess. Just make it easy for me when you do that for your host. And if you think that I'm being off base, you see a lot of actors and actresses and other types of famous personalities that do interviews on news shows or interest shows. A lot of them, these may feel like spontaneous conversations you're watching on Inside Edition or Fox or CNN or whatever. But the fact is, in many cases, they're completely scripted, because the interview is going by questions they were given. Or at minimum, the interviewer has been told in advance to not even go near, not even within 100 miles of certain topics. Because if you even try it, they'll stand up and walk out on you. And if you're in the media and a guest walks out on you, that's great for YouTube fodder, but it's actually very bad for your career. Because it it gets them the reputation of the type of host that's going to ambush you, and nobody's going to want you to interview them. So if you have famous people and celebrities and such that pre-submit questions, you certainly can and should. And it also makes it easier for you, because you already know what you're going to say.
Yeah. So Melissa, I just want to catch everyone up with Melissa. She is awesome, and she emails her list once a week, she said. And yes, helping disorganized moms get organized and structure. And she said, great, that's great. I'll work on the booking as a podcast guest. Yeah. And like I said, Melissa, it also helps if you listen to, you have to pretend you're a fan, kind of, that you've listened to at least one episode and say, I really resonate with insert title of episode here. I think I'd make a great guest because insert reasons why you'd make a great guest.
Yeah.
And you send out 20 or 30 of those, and you can totally get 10 of those as an interview.
Yeah. I'm also going to say, Melissa, you really should start your own podcast. And let me break.
We're overwhelming her, Adam. We're overwhelming.
No. We're not.
Adam,
we're not overwhelming her.
Don't forget, I do podcast production. So if she has any questions, I can help.
Okay, there. I set up the pin. I've set up the pins, and you rolled the strike. What I was going to say is, you don't have to necessarily worry about all the intricacies. Basically, get some good recording software, interview some people, and post it on your website. Create a category on your blog and call that category podcasts, and start posting them.
That's fair.
But if that's too, and I'm saying for the networking reasons, and also so you can show the 50 people you have right now you're doing stuff.
That's true. I actually had a guy in the Click Technique group do just that. He was doing Facebook Lives and calling them podcasts, essentially.
You know what?
Pretty well.
You know what? That works just as well. If you want to do the zero technology version, do some Facebook Lives. That will
it doesn't have to be all hosted on Libsyn and blah blah blah. It's literally just an interview. Yeah.
You don't have to do that. But you know what the cool thing is later on, if you want to do a formal podcast, you can just take a few of those interviews, download them. It's real easy to do, and either Lindsay could show you how to do it, and strip them down to the audio, and voila, ready to go podcast.
If you use, what would be cool, Melissa? Sorry, go ahead, Lindsay.
I'll just add a good tip. If you use repurpose.io, every Facebook Live that you do will push to YouTube, and it'll strip the audio and throw it in Dropbox.
That's awesome. Repurpose.io. Melissa, you do a Facebook Live once a week? Melissa, here's my grand idea.
Yes.
This is my grand idea. Go to FBLive.tv. It's free. It's what we're using right now. And it would be so easy. Oh, sorry. Gosh, dang it. I always say that.
He spilled her wine earlier.
Screw it. Anyway, you could easily interview mothers just on FBLive.tv on your Facebook Live, especially if you're kind of like sick of doing solo. That's why Lindsay and I kind of got together, because it's more interactive. And so like I would totally be interviewed and I could tell you about how overwhelmed I am about motherhood and hey, Robert, and you could totally like do that. It would be so easy. Thank you.
Robert.
Those are handy, aren't they? Yeah.
You know Robert, right, Adam?
Me and Robert have known each other since 2009.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Robert's a great guy. One of the things I love about Robert is when we were creating the original body of content for the Business Creators Institute back in 2012, I followed a version of what I just shared that Ross Jeffries did, which is I did a series of, I didn't do webinars, I did teleseminars, but it was still the same idea. I had different guest experts on every week. I was creating buzz, and because I had different guest experts on, I was able to share that I was doing these things and tag the people and stuff like that. So it was really creating buzz, getting me new subscribers, getting me excited. And one of them was Robert coming on board to do a webinar on the world famous backup creator. And he did such an incredible job with that webinar that I actually had to re-promote it, because the initial promotion we had done for that didn't do justice to the amount of value he had given us. So we had to re-promote it just so that people recognized how awesome it was.
Wow. Cool. That is super cool. Robert, we're talking about launches. Hey, Robert, you want to be a guest on the Lyndsay and Lindsey crazy show sometime? I will follow up with you.
So crazy, he doesn't even have a name.
Yeah, remember when I said on my email earlier, I said, and I know that everybody, including Robert, is on my mailing list. I said, I guess you call it the Lyndsay and Lindsey show. I don't know.
Yes, you did. Yeah, you totally were mocking us in a non-mocking way, Adam.
Yes, I was. Well, you spilled your wine.
I did. It's very depressing, actually.
It's not wine with the Lindsays tonight. It's just wine with Lindsay. I'm the only one drinking. What the hell?
You're drunk. Robert, I'll follow up with you. You're totally going to be on the show.
Oh, I'm tuning in for that one.
Robert has been on my podcast, and he's pretty awesome. So
yeah, he is.
He knows a lot. We'll discuss. The L and L. Ooh, that actually looks kind of nice, Lindsay.
It does look good.
It does look good. L
squared. I saw
squared.
L squared. Someone said happy hour with L squared, or marketing happy hour with L squared. I don't know.
Ooh, I kind of like that.
Marketing happy hour.
I like that. Yeah.
With L squared.
Yeah, I do like that. I get to be the first L though. Yeah, I need to be the first one.
What? No,
I'm just kidding.
L-Y is so much prettier than L-I. The battle continues.
All right, let's sum this up.
All right.
Lessons learned in launching. What are the biggest and misconceptions when you launch a product? You can teach us a lesson and sum up misconceptions all in one, Adam.
Okay, basically the misconception is that no matter how famous or big you are or how awesome you and engaged you think your list is, you can't just announce one day that you're doing something. You have to go through this pre-launch. Like I'll just say very briefly, and this will answer your question, is I have another client who's been well-known in his industry for over 30 years. And he has another well-recognized brand. And he created a course in 2014. It was actually a live 4-week online training program for people that he was going to teach them media and publicity tactics. And he didn't understand all this pre-launch stuff. It's like, wait a minute. These people don't want to hear this stuff. They just want to know how much and how soon. It's like, no.
You gotta warm them up.
No, we got to do this. Yeah, I know you send. It's like I know you send a newsletter every week. I know that you've written. I know you've written 39 books, and I know you've been on every news outlet known to man. I get it, but you still got to do pre-launch. Now, he became a believer when
you got to take her out to dinner before you kiss her, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no. If you follow the Ross Jeffries teachings, you don't have to take her out to dinner before you kiss her.
Really? In this political climate, is there really room for this? Come on.
It's actually very true when you understand the curriculum. I mean, it's not about things; it's about experiences. Yeah. You know. Let me put it to you this way. I was in a relationship once for over a year and a half, and I think we actually went to dinner twice.
Okay, I don't think that we need to steer the podcast this direction, do we, Lindsay? Is this where we want to go?
You're the one saying I got to spend money on dinner.
I'm speechless.
Taco Bell's fourth meal. No.
How does Taco Bell's fourth meal fit in? You're so funny.
You know what? I think that's great because here's in fact here's how I would spin it. We all love the Taco Bell dog. You know,
okay.
Viva Gorditas. You remember the Taco Bell dog?
Is his name Viva Gordito? Is that what you said?
Don't you remember when they created the Gorditas several years ago? And they had that little chihuahua said Viva Gorditas. And then they did a whole series of commercials with that chihuahua.
I missed that.
Yeah. So you can go to Taco Bell.
It's an American thing, Lindsay. It's American.
We don't have that crap in Canada.
Yes, a Taco Bell dinner is a dinner to be remembered. And I believe that's a Ronald Reagan quote. And I totally believe that Ronald Reagan said it. But the thing is, a man and a woman, or two men or two women, or whatever attraction is going on, can go to Taco Bell, bond over memories of the Viva Gorditas Chihuahua, and it'll be a dinner to be remembered, and then you can kiss.
I feel like I don't really want to go here, but I feel like you can't I just feel like if you go into a date with ulterior motives, then that's just...
I don't have ulterior motives. I don't have ulterior motives, and I don't go into dates with plans. I simply enter an interaction with the idea that we're going to get to know each other, and things will take their course, whatever course that's going to be. I'm a turn
to
the dating advice.
Sporting habits.
Also said by Frederick Nietzsche. Yeah. See, Daphne.
Oh, hell's bells.
I'm gonna give you one more quote. Never believe everything you read on the internet. Right? And
Robert's quotes, though, they're pretty snappy.
Yeah, but here's one more. Never believe everything you see on the internet. Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Wait, before we're talking about dinner dates and such, weren't we talking about lessons learned?
Launches? Yeah.
Back to that.
Okay, I would love to get back to that, because as I was in the middle of saying, I made my client a believer.
Dare you derail him, Lindsay?
And see, that's what you get when you derail me. I go off on tangents and then make you wonder what the hell I'm talking about.
Yeah,
that was your penance, and you have paid anyway.
Launching lessons learned.
Okay, launching lesson learned. I made this client a believer when we opened the doors on Thursday afternoon for the 20 seats in his program. And this might have been before Lindsay with a Y was a member of Jim's mastermind program, but we had a mastermind call that next morning, and I had to jump off the call because this client was calling and said, we just sold our 19th seat and we were planning a 5-day campaign here. What do we do? Wow. After that, he was booked. And then he said, oh, so I guess you do have to buy breakfast and take walks in the park and all that, and check out a train derailment and everything else as part of getting to know the person. Yes. So, so think of it this way. You might kiss somebody before you go to dinner with them, but you're certainly not going to marry them before you kiss them. Am I right?
Unless you're Britney Spears, right? Didn't she do that?
Exactly. Okay.
Unless you're the Duggars.
Oh yeah,
right.
okay, I see. Right.
But yes, Adam, we catch your point. We're not trying to be difficult.
Oh right.
Normal people don't do that.
I'm saying is think of the transaction that you do that turns into a customer when they participate in your launch and they buy your stuff. You've got to go through the sequence of getting to know them, using the language to build the rapport. And
I love it.
Yeah, so that's how you look at it. And going back to the example of somebody who says, "Well, I've been world famous for 30 years. I should be able to just say I'm doing it, and I have all the trust and credibility." Well, there's people I know that even if I've known them for a long time, if I were to start dating them, that's a whole different level of getting to know them. I need to do. There might be a woman I've known for 15 years as a friend, but then things take a different turn. Now I got to get to know her as a potential girlfriend.
Yeah.
Well, look at all the hype that Beyonce has before a new CD. It's like there's pre-hype and hype and PR.
They do that for a reason.
You'd think she could just like release an album and yada yada. Off she goes making money, but there's PR, there's pre-hype, there's it's in every element of business.
Yes, it is.
So yeah. All right.
Awesome.
Well,
go ahead, Lindsay. Close us out, Lindsay.
I was just going to say I'm almost done my wine, and we've been chatting for an hour. So
yeah, and
Adam, it's been super fun to have you on the show. Oh, Robert senses a juicy backstory here.
Yep, and suddenly he wants a deep dive into this 15-year history. Yes. Oh, when you guys have Robert on, I'm definitely going to tune in for that. And if you ever want to risk having me again on a different topic, I promise to behave at least as well as I have this time. I don't know.
Ooh. We're gonna have to get you to sign our terms of agreement.
There you go. See, now you're learning NDAs. Agreement, pre-submitted questions and all that, but please
submit your questions. Please submit the questions before you come on.
as many know I'm in a process of moving, because some of you saw my plans for the new bedroom, because I was trying to put it to my friends whether or not I should get the optional woodwork, and I did sign the addendum.
Like, what the bacon? Where did this conversation go?
Because what I was doing. Because what I was doing.
My children, they need to go to bed.
Because what I was doing is I was creating engagement. Like, hey guys, I'm moving, and my landlord told me that I could have this optional wood trim on the back wall. Should I get it?
And it was awesome. I thought you should have. It was beautiful.
I was involving you guys and helping me make life.
I know. We appreciated
sort of like Adam reality TV. Even better than the Kardashians.
It was. It really was. It really was.
See, I care.
Okay, we're off next week, Lindsay. Are you going solo next week? Are you flying solo? Huh?
No, because all the Americans will be eating their damn turkey.
It's true.
And all my clients are American, so I will be drinking wine by myself on the couch, I guess, after my summer gymnastics.
Well, what I was getting ready to say is, if and when you ever have me back on, the next stage of that development is I'm setting up a video studio in the office.
Woo!
It's going to have like a big picture of a groundhog hanging on the wall.
I'm looking forward to your book release.
You're quite the comedian, Robert.
He really is.
Yes, he is. The Tryptophan episode.
This is so much fun.
But the week after that is a surprise. It's a huge surprise, right, Lindsay? Remember that surprise?
Yes, it is.
It's big. It's a huge surprise.
Yes.
It's so big you don't even know it.
Yeah.
It's. You know what? I'm gonna do it. It's huge.
Yeah, thank you. I was gonna say that. My voice sounded a little Trump-like there. Well, a little Trump-like.
Well, you didn't say believe me, so it didn't really sound that Trump-like.
Believe me.
Yeah.
I have the best memory, and I know exactly what happens 2 weeks from now. Okay.
Well, you know what? You guys do have the best 6 p.m. Lyndsay and Lindsey show.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, Lindsay, finish us up. Oh, let's say some domain names here, and then we can sign off. Lindsay, you first.
Me? Smoothbusinessgrowth.com. So if anyone does want to create a podcast, I'm your girl. Among other content marketing fabulousness.
Adam, give us a shout out for how to find you when we're launching something and need your help.
businesscreatorsinstitute.com.
Love it. So reach out to Adam for all of your launching needs. And I am One-Click Lindsey with trafficandleads.com for all of your traffic and leads needs. Ooh, I like that.
It rhymes. It rhymes.
All right. Everybody wave. Say goodbye. Robert, we'll see you soon, bro.
Bye.
Thanks, Adam.
Ciao.
See you, Robert. See you, Melissa.
Hey.